Hello and welcome, and it is that of Crypto Day, the 17th day of April 2018. It's that of a Tuesday, and welcome. And time for a longer video. Verge to start off with. Earlier in the day, it made highs not seen since it pierced this high on January the 9th, making better than 3-month highs. Just recently, it has fallen, now down 21% for the day, falling to levels last seen on April the 6th, or making an 11-day low. So wild action, to say the least. On the 15-minute time frame, we can see the major volatility, which is why I like the trading of buying low, selling high. Lots of opportunities. It's buyback point now. At this stage, I got a buy order in at around 750, and I have a sell order at about let me just see the exact numbers actually. Okay, 751 buy, 1029 sell, which would take us back to this little key area here, and a pierce above the 989. It's pierced below it now. Again, we take a look at this on a daily chart. That looks like a pierce below. It's pierced below the the low. So therefore, is this going to be a high? Maybe. I don't know what this is, but it's the volatility that comes in. It's a lot of selling, of course. And as I stated in the 4-minute morning, that I recently seen an interesting video from Doug Polk. 5 days ago, he stated, Verge, do not buy into the hype. And 4 days ago, is cryptocurrency back? And you'll start that off by stating about Verge doing well with all of the... It's a lot of great information in this 21-minute video. Again, the channel, Doug, P-O-L-K, Crypto. I myself will not be getting out. I'll just continue to trade it. My last 10 trades going back to the morning of April the 15th, selling at 1082, buying back at 1078, 1057 again, selling at 1185, buying back at 1129, selling at 1229, and 1339 last night and this morning. And then the buyback 1188. I was trying to get it in 1192. I got 4 better points. Tried to get 982 and I got 7 better points. Then I tried to get back in at 871 and I got in at 870 as my last trade. That trade occurred 19 minutes ago because it's 10:37 right now. But when you look at the time stamps on here, at 10:14:46 is when this trade closed at 975. And then I put a buy order in to buy here 4 minutes later. It goes from 975, 100 basis points, better than 10% in just that short period of time. So that's why I just don't need to do anything now. I'll just wait for the volatility to play itself out. I'll get a very good buyback price at 750, and I'll get a very good sell price at the 1,000 and change mark. Omi's Go is the second biggest loser for the day of the ones that I have on my watch list anyway. Down 4.85%. You know, maybe more healthy of a pullback. I see it well above a key Fibonacci point. I see it well above the 18 average of highs. And that was just one interesting day here where the price action went all the way up here. Great selling opportunities, and now you buy back and you're happy. This is why I like buying low, selling high within the strategy that I mentioned. But there's really not much more to go over this chart. Let's go over some codes and charts that I think are worth talking about. And ADT is one, because when you're looking for good setups right now in the daily term time frame, after the band was flattening out in early April, it got above it on April 9th, coming back. But this is day number 3 of it stabilizing below the highs of its day before. but staying well above the 18 average of highs. So we're supporting well above it, supporting above it, not at it. But we can see it just in 3 days of an upward trend line. If we take a look at this on a 400-minute time frame, this is staying in a very good trend on the upside and the potential for decent sized gains because of the fact that it's just leaving this. You realize that when these codes go, they can really go. You see the size of this green candle on February 28th, and then the 2 ones on January 26th through the 27th. It looks like breaking past resistance at 650-ish or so. This thing could be ready for some good moves. Let's move on to the next one. And everything you do is within your own risk and reward, of course. I don't know if I stated that at the start. That should be obvious, especially when you watch my channel all the time and I say it every single video. THC, we can see when it broke past on April 10th, April 11th, consolidating its gains for a few days at a key Fibonacci point, and then now 2 days up, just small up, but stating that, hey, this move is for real. We're doing reversal of trend. We've yet to come back to the band, but at the same point, it didn't really establish that large of a resistance field, albeit this is, I don't know how well this log chart is functioning as far as it does poor on TradingView when with some of the codes. However, price action, we do realize we see previous level of where it came from, betweening 1600 and piercing into like 2000. So 1600 to 2000 is a very, very likely target. That's just a small move, and that's, depending on which level you look at, between 50 and 80% of a gain. Komodo, which after this downtrend had this move up on April the 2nd, it successfully came back to the band. It broke established resistance. It's now back to the band again at the 18 average of highs. Holding above the 39,000 level is going to be very, very important, but breaking out above 52, then maybe we could start to see some prices getting closer to, well, the 100 handle rather. Let's move on to Gigabyte, which this thing looks ready to go. It really, really looks like it's wanting to get high, although it's not really the code, I should state, about getting high. I already talked about one of them in this video. But Gigabyte, in at 378, nice little going sideways after supporting a key level at 233. 18 average of lows, successful support. 18 average of highs with successful resistance, but it broke through it on April the 10th after failing to break above it the day before. But just because you fail in one attempt, you do it again. It's like the old saying people say, hey, you get back up and you go after it again. And that's the case here. It won this time, I guess. But what's amazing is how it follows through. So it follows through with continuation gain, a correctionary day, as we've seen within this red candle, then another green candle up, and then since then, a nice sideways correctionary day, a little bit of a small up day. So nice little sideways action, but it looks as if this thing might be ready to break out of this resistance area field that we can see on the 3-hour time frame at about 383. Don't be surprised if you're looking at this one moment at 391 after it was this, maybe after it was this area shortly before. Then you go for a break somewhere, you leave for 20 minutes and you see it that it's closer to 500 or 460 or some sort of major gain. Because when these cryptos go, they go. And oftentimes when you have spots like this, setups like this, it's not a surprise to happen on those time frames or situations. Power Ledger, looking at a nice little setup here where we had resistance on the 14th of March. And then it pulls back for a while because it doesn't come back to that level till April the 3rd. So about 3 weeks in time go by. But I like how since its move on the 14th that you had 2 days after such just correcting as it did. And look at today's session. If this thing doesn't look ready to go for some good gains, then yeah, I mean, where do I think price action should go to for a leg higher? I'm looking at around the 7,000 mark, into 68 to 7,000, either 6,800 to the 7,000 range just by this key area. I wouldn't be surprised. There's not much more data, but that's definitely a nice looking setup in POWR. Strat. This is another interesting little setup again, because this level of resistance that was hit March 25th, and it's back there now. It struggled within its 18 average, and this date on April Fool's Day, and it really was that. This is the April Fool's Day. I never even thought about that until now. But the fool was that it broke down below the 18 average of lows, and this is a very bearish setup. And I've talked about this before, because this is a statement when you go above the 18 like this, that you're looking to attempt to get this thing corrected. And there's nothing wrong with red candling down to the 18 average of lows. That's flat, going sideways. Oh man, a cautionary day, March 29th, when it had this red candle. Well, 2 days after that, March 31st, when you're below the 18 average of lows like that, very weak setup. And now it's almost confirmation that this is a beautiful short opportunity, and this thing is ready to fall. Probably a good, whatever the rate should be, like, oh yeah, we're going down to like 40, 41, maybe 42. We're going down 20%. Oh, are we? April Fool's joke, I guess, because that didn't happen. But since the gain breaking or at this resistance area point on April 13th, several days staying above the 18 average of highs, not breaking resistance, but it has now just done so. It's still tangling with, of course, this level in here at around the well, exactly the 65,000 mark, but definitely got great potential getting out past that point. And a lot of the crypto space is showing signs that things are ready to revert over, which is a beautiful thing to see. Price action is going to do what it's going to do. But yeah, let's move on to a few more codes. Doji continues its upward trend that it had on April the 10th, with small gains every single day, after an extended period of time where it just stayed around the 40 Satoshi handle. So at some point it's got to correct. So the key thing you're going to be wanting to look at is Fibonacci from the lows of 39 and whatever the high happens to be, which right now is in at 61. And of course, every time that number breaks higher, then you adjust the high to that point. You want it to definitely hold. Look at the key 38.2 and 61.8% levels. The 0.3, the second one lower, is the must hold that I consider it as, and very common if it goes to those that point, it's going to be that of support, at least for a bear market rally, or just going sideways there at worst. Stellar Lumen's got a very good setup as well after this up day just a few days ago. Yesterday was the consolidation day, and just breaking through higher today. We resisted yesterday at this little area of the January support. So if it goes further, I'm going to be looking more towards the February support and the resistance from January, and around the 4,500 mark. That again is Lumen XLM. If Dash is a laggard, lagging behind, what I can say about it after this large decline from this high on February 14th, breaking down on the 17th, that is 2 months ago, that it has never even had any shot getting above the 18 average of highs, really, and if so, is only for brief periods. But a few days ago, around the 11th, 10th of, or about a week ago, the band flattened out on the 18. And we are seeing that the price action has been nowhere near the 18 average of lows for about a week. Price action has had a lot of action at the 18 average of highs. It's been how long since it's had 6 consecutive days flirting with the 18 average of highs? Well, that would take us to the bull market. The last time it's had 6 days where it's flirting or been above. Yeah, so that's a productive sign in itself. 6 days doing what it's been doing. The best part is you're establishing levels of resistance. It's got 2 points, the 477 level, and then this very short-term point. You can look at short-term analysis, but I can tell just by looking at it that the 465-ish area, you'd be looking for a short-term move up towards here. Ideally, I like to see markets break this resistance, and it's either going to have a continuation big move further, but maybe over the next 5-7 minutes after that, come back down to here, or next hour even, half hour, then break it and have your next move. But For Dash, you got to look. It might take many days to get there. Many might only be 3 or 4. We can see when these markets go up, they go up fast. But the 559 handle or a break above 560 is what I'd be expecting with DASH. Now, Monero doesn't really have any setups saying, oh, this is looking good or looking bad for the next near point, but it's been hovering above and below this key 234 level. And this key level is not Fibonacci, but it's, to me, bigger. It's the, I mean, resistance, 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 failed breakout, and then resistance, playing around with it here, gets above, supporting it, getting above, and now it's supporting, resisting within the whole time. Big move to expect on a break below either the 230 handle, decently below 229 even, or getting above 259, 260. Decent size moves, because if it gets above 260, I wouldn't be surprised to see movements like we've seen just before Christmas time with these green type of candles here. That's seen the price action double in like a few days. That's the type of moves I would expect. And I wouldn't be surprised if it breaks above it, if it even just skyrockets past the 33, and maybe even does double again and gets to the 0.05 handle. Let's move on. POT, this one I think is going to want to get high, but it's been consolidating through time. This is markets correct either through price or through time. It did on one day through price on April the 12th. But this is a whole week where now it's met up with the 18 average of highs, so it's barely had enough of a time correction, at least using the 18. Resistance is established in around the 1800 area, so getting it above 1800, watch out. SNT status network, this is a situation where on April the 3rd, it managed to come up to this key Fibonacci line at 1621, pulling back instantly to the 18 average, but it met that the 18 average, which at the end of March was declining, before the move, moving into April, it was flat. It made this move, so it established an uptrend, and it successfully managed to hold it. And it did so from April the 5th through April the 10th, just staying within around the 18 average of closes. Then April the 11th, it has a rally from the 18 closes to the 18 highs. And you can't see the 18 closes, but it's in between the two, so it's just obvious that the 8th and the 9th, that's where it was. And then on April the 13th, it makes a move piercing below this line, coming back to the 18 highs, but then takes 3 consecutive days where it just stays supporting that point. Today is the 4th consecutive days which it has done so. With the exception of yesterday, there was, well, there's a higher high on April 15th. It's broken past that one there. So you definitely have to expect that it's going to make a move more towards this high. But this is the formation of what a ascending triangle would look like, with resistance coming, of course, in at the 1621. I'm not going to draw it in, but you can see it's easy to draw an uptrend line over the last several days. NXT, which had a pierce below resistance on April the 12th, had a good correctionary move, staying above the 18 highs, but then on April the 15th, it's been above it, and now it's holding and staying above this point for 2 consecutive days. When we look at where this came from, 14,000 crashing down to 36, continuing further down to like 1,400, up to 23. I mean, this thing can go wild. We've seen before that on December the 18th, it breaks out from a low of 4150, and then just a few days later, we're like at a high of like 14,000. Potential for huge gains are obviously there. Let's move on to the next code, which is going to be Ripple. Okay, you don't get that major volatility within the moves, but every code is pretty much volatile, this one being no exception. But on April the 11th, April 12th, we can see the breakout, and now several days staying above this 18 average of highs. So I'm really liking the setup we are seeing here on XRP. Einsteinium, EMC, numero deux. That's 2 in French. The price action, 14th of March, up to 4,600. That's 2 days doing that, coming back. It had trouble below the 18, but it stayed above the support that it had from its previous level, thus the 18 average not giving in. had a half-assed rally in comparison to the last one, which is usually the case when that one was pretty darn decent. But it comes back, and we can see how after hitting the 18 average of lows on April the 7th, it managed to rally, staying well above it. It hasn't been anywhere near that point since. And on the rally on April the 13th, which barely pierced above the previous one many days earlier, it has had 4 consecutive days just breaking out past this 18 average. So definitely this one is looking in a good setup as well. And I'm going to finish this off with my favorite coin, which is actually really a coin when you have them. At least most of my silver is in coin format. Even rounds I'm going to count as a coin, but I got bars and all that stuff. But it's breaking out above the 18 average, even though it's not a crypto. Although it kind of can be essentially related to cryptos, given that there are dealers that will accept crypto payments for silver. But regardless of what silver does, whether, for the most part, whether it has beautiful rallies to 18, 20, or even 25, 28. We'll say, well, 20 or 25, we'll say. Or if it has significant breakdowns to like 14 or 13. It's always going to be about crypto to determine if silver prices are really good or really bad. Because if crypto prices, especially when you play the alts correctly, have decent gains like 2, 3, 4x, then what's it going to matter now if silver is 1673 or 1844? It's going to be cheaper to buy at 1844 or 2275 if your cryptos go way up. And if, say, silver were to go to, say, 16 down to 14 and the crypto markets fall pretty hard, well, it's more expensive to buy silver, even when it's priced cheaper in US dollars. Thank you for tuning in to today's video, and have yourself a great crypto day. Bye-bye.